All right, I think we've overcome the immediate technical difficulties. Let's keep our fingers crossed. And with that, I would like to call to order this meeting of the Manatee Springs City Council. It's April the 20th, 2021. This is a regular meeting of the City Council. And before we go too far, I would like to mention for those of us who are listening from TV land that we are attempting to move towards a more encompassing approach. We think that about May 4th we'll be able to have members of the public attend if they would like to. This is still a sort of a, it's in its embryonic stage, but we would ask that people who are interested in attending in person contact the city clerk. We're going to probably have restricted numbers. So that said, we're trying to go back to being, to offer some of the real things that we think of American meetings and American democracy. That said, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll all join me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the city clerk please call the roll?
Council members Judith Chandler.
Present.
John Shada.
Here.
Okay. Julie Wolf. I see you. I didn't hear you, Julie. Okay, now I can. Thank you.
Oh.
Council Steve Brimner.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Nancy Fortune.
Present.
And Mayor John Graham.
Here. Thank you. Okay, the next first item of business is to the approval of the agenda. I think we've all seen the agenda, so I would entertain a motion to approve.
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Yeah, seconded by Mary, Councilor Chandler. Okay, all in favor say aye and raise your hand. Aye. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item is public comment on non-agenda items. Judy, do we have anyone who's expressed an interest in speaking tonight?
No, I have not received a request for that in advance, and I would just ask anyone that's in attendance right now if they wish to speak, if they use the raise hand tool, so we would know that they need to speak.
And seeing none, it would appear that we don't have anyone who wishes to make a public comment this evening. All right, thank you. Let's go ahead and move on then. Next item, item F, is the consent calendar, and we have 3 items on it. First is approval of the April 6th, 2021 regular meeting minutes. The second is the Hiawatha Gardens demolition contract approval. And 3 is the Carnegie Library contract for architectural and engineering services. If there are no objections, I would entertain a motion to accept and approve.
I move we accept the consent calendar and approve the consent calendar as presented.
I'll
We
second.
have a motion, seconded by Councilor Chandler. All in favor say aye. Aye. Raise your hand, please. Great. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Very good. Item G, hearings. We have second reading and a public hearing of ordinance number 0621, an ordinance of the City of Manitou Springs, Colorado, authorizing the municipal court to refer unpaid penalties, fines, fees, costs, and restitution to private collection agencies, and authorizing the city to refer delinquent accounts owed to the city to private collection agencies. And we have Becca Davis here. I think it would be appropriate to ask Becca if she has any comments. We heard about this 2 weeks ago, but there may have been some questions or additional information. So Becca, you have the floor.
Okay, there is nothing changed in this ordinance. As the mayor said, it was presented for first reading on April 6th, and now it's being brought back for its public hearing and second reading. It's a very simple matter. It's just allowing the city to send out for collection to a private company so that we're not trying to do it ourselves.
Thank you, Becca. Before I open the public hearing, I guess I would like to give City Council an opportunity to ask any questions of Becca or of Mr. Parker, if we have any. It looks like there are no questions for now, so I will go ahead and open the public hearing. Any member of the public who wishes to speak to this should please raise their hand in the Zoom feature. Not seeing any hands. And Judy, did anyone express an interest in this?
No, Mayor.
Okay, so we didn't have any preliminary interest in this either. Okay, well, that said, I'll declare the public hearing closed, and we can move into deliberation. Can entertain a motion if there are no questions.
I'll
Or
go
if there are
ahead.
questions or comments.
I was going to go ahead and move that we approve ordinance 0621, an ordinance of the city of Manitou Springs, Colorado, authorizing the municipal court to refer unpaid penalties, fines, fees, costs, and restitution to private collection agencies, and authorizing the city to refer delinquent amounts owed to the city to private collection agencies.
Thank you, Councilor Chandler. Do we have a second?
Second that.
We have seconded by Councilor Wolf. Any further discussion? If not, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor, say aye and raise your hand, please. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Becca, thank you very much. It was a short duty tonight. Thanks.
I have a question, Mayor.
Yeah, Julie.
Are we supposed to solicit public comment on second reading?
We offer public comment on second reading. So with every time we have an ordinance and we get to the second reading of that ordinance, we automatically include a public hearing. So the public has an opportunity to speak to the issue. It's just tonight it didn't seem to be very interesting to most people,
Oh,
or to anyone.
okay, I missed it. I spaced out that you asked the public for comment. I missed that piece of it, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. We always do that. It's just yeah, it's an essential part of our work. So hopefully that explains it sufficiently. Great. Well, believe it or not, we're all ready to receive or act on council correspondence. So I would open up the floor to any counselor who has a comment. Mayor Protem, please.
Just a couple things. One, I took the opportunity to go to the library community meeting last Thursday. Had a pretty good turnout. It was for Ward 1. Pretty good turnout, some very interesting comments, and overall a good meeting, so that was worthwhile. And I, along with many of the rest of you, went up to Public Works to their open house, and it was thrilling to see how what the improvement that's up there. So thanks to everyone who was involved in that process. And that's all I've got for now. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any other counselors? Okay. Well, actually, I would like to report a couple things. I got a nice thank you letter from the Manitou Arts Center, Natalie Johnson. She expressed the Arts Center's gratitude to the City Council for the funding that they will be receiving through the match proposal. So they'll be getting $22,500 for the Manitou Arts Center, and she did send their appreciation, so I'd like to extend that to all members of City Council. Also, in reviewing the upcoming agendas, May 11th, we plan to interview candidates for the Ward 1 vacancy. We're not sure how many individuals we'll get, but I would suggest that we at least begin to plan to maybe have that meeting at 5 o'clock. I'm afraid we do have a fair number of things that we also need to cover during that meeting. That was planned some time ago before we had the Ward 1 vacancy. And I believe also that Councilor Wolf is going to be gone the following week, so it would sort of behoove us to try and tackle that as much as possible. So if there's no objections, I would propose a 5 o'clock start time for May the 11th. Are there any objections? Okay, thank you, and we'll monitor this. If we don't have that many, then perhaps we'll rethink this, but let's have a plan in place ahead. Also, we talked about a council retreat. Originally, we were going to try and do that in May, but when we found out that we were going to be short a counselor, of course, the decision was to fill that position and then have the retreat. It looks the suggested dates now are June the 5th and June the 12th. Councilor Chandler and Mayor Pro Tem Fortune have met to begin to flesh out what the focus of that day might be. They have suggested that June the 5th would be the preferred day and the 12th would be a backup day. We're looking for the venue. We need to clarify that, but if those dates sound like they would work for you, I'd kind of like to get a little bit of feedback. Can we push forward with those dates? Are there any objections? Or maybe you need to check your calendar, but if you could just send me an email and let me know if there's a problem. And I did talk to Dan Stewart, and it sounds like he'd be available for either of those dates to be our moderator. And I guess one of the nice things, not only does Dan know the community, but he's going to work for the price of his lunch. That's all I've got. Councilor Chandler, please.
Thank you. So Councilor Brebner and I met today for an hour and a half with residents Sid Nichols and Linda Moreland. It was a really great opportunity to talk to two residents regarding community engagement. There were a total of 5 recommendations that were made, and I will send the 4 in an email to you. One is about potential agenda change, and the other 2 refer to how to get city information out to residents in a better fashion. But I do want to bring up the fact that both Sid, who is well-versed in asset-based community development model, and Linda have offered to put together and co-host a community engagement meeting on community engagement. And we are looking at either a Zoom meeting or an in-person event at Memorial Hall down the road when we can gather again. So I thought that was a really great way for our residents to volunteer, and I hope we can make that happen, and I support that. Thank you. I'll send the rest in an email to everyone, including you, Denise, on the other recommendations. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Bremner?
Yeah, I'd just like to amplify that a little bit. This came from the email, actually the public comment that Sid Nichols made, I believe in our last meeting, where he talked about, we need to put more emphasis on the people that actually live here. We're concentrating on the businesses, we're concentrating on the COG, all these things, but people live here. And we need to make it a place that's conducive to a better environment for the people that live here. And so that really resonated with Judith and I. So we said we wanted to meet with him, and he sent further emails, and he's also had a lengthy conversation with John Shada about these issues. And he's willing to step up and help us to facilitate more engagement, more community involvement. So I look forward to more connection, more conversation, more community involvement in our. I think Manitou Springs is unique. We do have a lot of involvement by the community, but we talked about the idea of there's lots of different neighborhoods, and the neighborhoods. Right now, we're set up in the city council with 3 wards. Well, they're awful big wards. My ward extends like in a big L all the way around the whole town. I don't even really have too much contact or involvement with people over by Becker's Lane. I have met with them before, but I'm over on Ruxton, so I don't have as much involvement with them. But they have their own neighborhood community, and just their neighbors, people that live around you. So the idea is to maybe get more connection and involvement from a neighborhood to neighborhood. So that's a lot. There's a lot more that came out of our conversation we had. today, but that's the gist of it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Bremner. And Councilors Chandler, Bremner, and Shada, thank you for reaching out to Sid and engaging that dialogue. I think that'll be fruitful in the coming months. Do we have any other comments? Correspondence? Seeing that there are none, let's move on to the city administrator's report.
I only have a short one, and that is starting this Friday, starting at 1 o'clock on Fridays, Cannon Avenue, they'll take all the signs down so that people can park on that during the weekends. And then at Mondays at 9 a.m., they'll start their work again. So that will just be happening. It's supposed to be done by the middle of May, but that allows for the weekends for the businesses to be able to have parking and for us to have parking there. So that will be starting this Friday. That's the only update I have at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Okay, item J, an executive session. In fact, we have two executive sessions. I will read them both, and then I will ask a motion to go into executive session.
Mayor, I apologize.
I'm sorry, Judith.
I
Oh, no, I'm
totally
sorry. Go ahead, Judith. You have the floor.
I do apologize to everyone. I do have one more item from the Climate Action Work Group and Tree Planting Group. Sorry that escaped me. So it's Earth Day on Thursday. We'll be flying the city Public Works will be flying the Tree City USA flag at Shriver. And I'm excited to announce that on the Saturday, the 1st of May, the day after Arbor Day, we'll be planting the 2 trees on Canyon Avenue to commemorate the trees that we took down. And there is a plaque that we will be, a Tree City USA plaque that we will be looking for a permanent home. And hopefully, cross your fingers, we'll be looking to reschedule the Climate Action award ceremony and potluck for this fall. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Definitely worth remembering and making mention of. Thank you, Councilor Chandler. Okay, going back to the executive session, I'll read the 2 items and then I'll ask for a motion to go into executive session. The first item, an executive session to determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, develop a strategy for negotiations, and instruct negotiators pursuant to Section 5.1D of the City of Manitou Springs Home Rule Charter concerning property acquisition in the vicinity of Serpentine Drive. And then the second session item, an executive session to determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, develop a strategy for negotiations, and instruct negotiators to pursuant to Section 5.1D of the City of Manitou Springs Home Rule Charter, and to hold a conference with the city attorney for legal advice concerning the ownership and use of property located at Higginbotham Flats. That said, do I have a motion to go for executive session?
I'll move we go into executive session.
Okay, motion by Mayor Pro Tem. I see seconds by Councilors Wolf and Chandler. All in favor, say aye. Raise your hand, please. Okay, matters unanimous. Okay, we can go into executive session. You'll notice that in the email that the city clerk sent out earlier today, we have a separate Zoom session for that. So let's go ahead and exit this session, and let's plan on being back in about 5 minutes, if that sounds good. All right, so about 6:30. Thank you.